Celebrities in a nutshell.
The Bee Gees, harmonies that defined a generation. Welcome to Celebrities in a Nutshell, where we uncover the stories behind the greatest legends in music. Today, we're celebrating one of the most successful and iconic bands in history, the Bee Gees. From their early harmonies to their disco domination, the Bee Gees transformed the music scene in ways that are still felt today. Join us as we take a deep dive into the lives and legacy of Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb, the brothers who defined an era. The Bee Gees' story begins in the late 1940s. Barry Gibb was born in 1946, and his twin brothers, Robin and Maurice, followed in 1949. The Gibb family originally lived in Manchester, England, but in 1958, they made the life-changing decision to emigrate to Australia. In Australia, the Gibb brothers began to develop their musical talents, performing at local talent shows and on television. They formed their first group, the Rattlesnakes, which later became the Bee Gees, a name that's popularly believed to stand for the Brothers Gibb. By the early 1960s, the Bee Gees were gaining traction in the Australian music scene, releasing their first singles and making a name for themselves with their harmonies and songwriting skills. In 1967, the Bee Gees returned to the UK, where they signed with manager and producer Robert Stigwood. This was the turning point that set the stage for their international breakthrough. That same year, they released their first major hit, New York Mining Disaster 1941, which became a top 20 hit in both the UK and the US. Their early sound was often compared to the Beatles, with lush vocal harmonies and a folk rock influence. Hits like Massachusetts, To Love Somebody, and I've Gotta Get a Message to You established the Bee Gees as one of the biggest groups of the late 1960s. Their ability to blend pop, rock, and emotional balladry set them apart from other acts of the time. However, by the early 1970s, the Bee Gees faced a period of uncertainty. The music landscape was changing, and the brothers found themselves struggling to maintain their earlier success. In 1970, the tension between Robin and Barry led to a temporary split, with each brother pursuing solo projects. But after a brief hiatus, the Bee Gees reunited and began to experiment with their sound. This experimentation led to their reinvention in the mid-1970s. Influenced by the emerging disco sound, the Bee Gees began incorporating elements of funk, R&B, and soul into their music. Their 1975 album Main Course marked their full transition into the world of disco and introduced their now iconic falsetto vocals. Then came 1977, the year that would forever change the Bee Gees' legacy. Their involvement with the soundtrack of the film Saturday Night Fever catapulted them to a level of superstardom few artists have ever achieved. Songs like Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love became instant classics and dominated the charts. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack became one of the best-selling albums of all time, and the Bee Gees were credited with defining the disco era. Their signature falsetto harmonies, infectious grooves, and ability to write hit after hit made them the kings of disco. But their impact wasn't limited to just the dance floor. The Bee Gees' songwriting talents were undeniable, and they wrote hits for artists like Diana Ross, Barbra Streisand, and Frankie Valli. However, by the early 1980s, the disco craze began to fade, and the Bee Gees, along with the entire genre, faced a backlash. Events like Disco Demolition Night in 1979 symbolized the public's growing disdain for disco, and the Bee Gees, once hailed as musical innovators, found themselves pushed out of the spotlight. While the Bee Gees' popularity as performers waned in the 1980s, their songwriting and producing skills remained in high demand. They wrote and produced hits for artists like Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Dionne Warwick, and more, proving their versatility and staying power in the music industry. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Bee Gees experienced a resurgence. Their 1987 album ESP produced the hit single You Win Again, which topped the charts in the UK. In the 1990s, the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, cementing their place among the greatest musical acts of all time. One of their most memorable performances came in 1997 with their one-night-only concert in Las Vegas, where they performed to a sold-out crowd and reminded the world why they had become legends in the first place. Tragedy struck the Bee Gees in 2003 when Maurice Gibb passed away unexpectedly at the age of 53. His death marked the end of the Bee Gees as a performing group, and Barry and Robin were left to carry on the legacy of their brother. In 2012, Robin Gibb also passed away after a battle with cancer, leaving Barry as the sole surviving member of the Bee Gees. Despite these losses, the legacy of the Bee Gees lives on, with their music continuing to inspire new generations of artists and fans. The Bee Gees' influence on popular music is undeniable. Their ability to reinvent themselves, from 1960s pop to 1970s disco and beyond, is a testament to their talent and creativity. Their harmonies, songwriting, and production techniques have inspired countless artists, from Justin Timberlake to Daft Punk. With over 220 million records sold worldwide, the Bee Gees are one of the best-selling bands of all time. They've won multiple Grammy Awards, including the Grammy Legend Award, and their music continues to be featured in movies, TV shows, and commercials, proving that their songs are as timeless as ever. The story of the Bee Gees is one of perseverance, reinvention, and enduring musical talent. From their early days in Australia to their meteoric rise during the disco era and beyond, the Bee Gees have left an indelible mark on the history of music. Their harmonies, their songwriting, and their ability to evolve with the times have made them legends. And while Maurice and Robin may no longer be with us, their music and their legacy will live on forever. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the life and legacy of the Bee Gees. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more explorations of influential figures in music and culture. Let us know your favorite Bee Gees songs or albums in the comments below. Until next time, keep the music alive.